Hello and welcome to another Property Solvers podcast. This is Ruban from Property Solvers. I'm joined once again with James Durr. How you doing, James?
I'm good, Ruben. Yourself?
Yeah, good.
Hello,
thanks.
everybody on YouTube, Spotify. Like and subscribe. Let's get those numbers up.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about a subject that we thought was pretty fairly interesting to cover, and probably of interest.
Yeah, we don't really know how this one is going to go, Ruben, yet, do we? I was a bit kind of hesitant on this. It's a bit of it's a big subject.
Yeah, so the topic is how to find motivated sellers, home sellers. So what I thought we could do is maybe start with the kind of offline approaches and then move towards the online approaches. So just to kind of briefly summarize what I thought we could talk about is finding deals through estate agents, leaflets, letter writing, and that kind of thing. And then moving on to how to do kind of online marketing for motivated sellers as well. So perhaps arguably probably the most common one is finding deals through estate agents. So James, do you want to maybe start about what your thoughts are on approaching estate agents to see if you can find the right kind of opportunities that will work for, property investors?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny giving me the estate agent one because in all my property career, I think I've bought one property from estate agents. Sometimes I've found that if you go into estate agents and you say, I'm looking for motivated sellers and I'm looking to buy a discount, a lot of them actually have never come across some of them have never even come across like a truly motivated seller. A lot of the times I've found that like with estate agents, obviously what you have to do is you have to work them. So like a lot of people do find deals through estate agents, but it's a case of kind of like building relationships with those agents and knowing who's the person in the office that's in charge of the list, because every estate agent will have a list of like favorite investors. And if they there's a lot of juniors working in the office, right? So if you go into an estate agent and you're not speaking to the right person, and the right person would be Ruben who?
The manager, probably. The manager.
Or the head
senior negotiator,
yeah. So like you go into an estate agent, usually the first person like sitting at the front desk nearest the shop window could be in the job for like 6 months and it's his first estate agency job. And you go in and speak to him about a motivated seller or that you're looking for below market value properties, and they probably won't have a clue what you're talking about. It's usually the guys at the back of the office or in a back office, not even on the shop floor, that you need to speak to. And the reality of life with estate agents and with finding motivated sellers through estate agents is they do have investors already on their books. Some of those investors will actually pay like bribes, effectively, like brown envelopes, to be the top of that list, even though that is illegal. And I mean, you can get it into a lot of trouble with the governing body of estate agents for that stuff. And there's all sorts of problem with money laundering and stuff like that. But the reality of it is that it does happen. And a lot of investors will actually, like we've been offered bribes in the past, Ruben, right? Especially in London. If you've got a London property in a hot area, the market's hot, like we've had people ringing up, just go, look, we'll pay you 5,000.
Take it off the market.
If you just take it off the market and give it to us, right? So like we never accepted bribes. Like we don't work like that. We've also never offered brown envelopes to estate agents. But it is something that goes on. It's part of the market, and it's something that you've got to be aware of. I mean, it's one of the ways that investors do work with estate agency. And another one would be like they might be like generally just cultivating relationships with estate agencies over a long period of time, you know, and that would be like calling into them and maybe like bringing them like a bottle of wine or a couple of tickets for the football or something like this. Like, this is the reality of how it goes on with estate agents.
I mean, if an estate agent gets caught doing something like that, they could potentially be imprisoned for that, because it's almost a form of fraud. So, estate agents need to be really careful with that.
I mean, look, we're not recommending that this is what you do, right? Like, what we're doing is giving the reality of what's actually going on and how these deals get passed around in between agents. Yeah. And the reality is, it's quite difficult to prove. Like, if somebody is given like estate agents, like, let's say, like, calls in with like a bottle of wine or a bottle of chocolates, and they're coming in like every couple of weeks, and they're developing that relationship with the lead guy in the estate agency, it's very difficult to prove like that's effectively like a bribe. And actually, I think a lot of estate agents don't even know that this stuff is actually like illegal. And the only reason I know is because I sat through some incredibly boring AML training recently, where they talk about all this kind of stuff and how it's illegal and the ramifications if you're caught doing this kind of thing.
Yeah. The bottom line is yeah. Sorry, James, go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does happen. I mean, it's not the only way to work with estate agents, right? So, I mean, you can just try and build a relationship just by obviously constantly calling into these estate agencies, making sure that you're top of mind, and also like making sure that they know that, number one, you're in a position to move fast. I mean, that's key, because obviously, like with any motivated seller, they need a quick sale, they need a secure sale, and often if you're in a position to buy cash, like what we do, this is more sort of how we get our sales, or how we buy from motivated sellers. If you can prove to the estate agent that you can do those three things, so number one, that you've got the cash, whether that be like sort of real cash or with a bridge and loan or with a mortgage. I mean, worst case scenario, you can say, look, I've got a mortgage in principle, I'm ready to move quick, and I won't pull out of the sale. That's the three most important things that a estate agency wants when they're going to pass you a motivated seller lead. So if you can work with an estate agent and convince them that you are that guy that can do those three things, then you can get on the list. You might not get on top of the list, but let's say the estate agent passes you one deal, and let's say it's a motivated seller, and maybe there's like a 10% discount in it, right? So it's not like a real meaty deal, but there's a bit of money in there, and you go ahead and you buy that deal, and you complete it quick. And obviously the vendor is happy, the estate agent gets their commission, which is what they're interested in. And you complete the deal in the time frame that you said, and there's no hiccups. Then you can slowly move up that chain with an estate agent. So like obviously the next time they're like, okay, we've got Ruben here, we know that he can complete quick.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of our other preferred investors might be busy with their own deals. Let's pass this one over to Ruben again. He seems keen. He's constantly calling. He's on the ball, and
and it's essentially putting in a good word with the seller, really, because ultimately, with estate agency sales, the seller is the client. So it's in the estate agent's best interest to maximize the price they achieve for the seller. So if a property is struggling to find the right kind of buyer, then that's a good opportunity for an investor to come in, and then the estate agent's role is to kind of negotiate the deal and close the deal, But yeah, as James said, it's about the thing is in the best possible way. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, like, as we know, Ruben, like the most important aspect for a vendor sometimes may not be the price. Sometimes they just want to know who can buy that property quickly, and how quick can it be done, and is that buyer a secure buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when there's like, maybe it could be like, I mean, there's lots of reasons why people sell quick, and it's important to sort of understand the reasons as well if you want to be in a position to find motivated sellers.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it could be a divorce, it could be a repossession, it could be a bad tenant. I mean, there might be a deadline on that property. It could be a probate case, and maybe there is a deadline where they need to sell that property. So for the vendor in that case, the most important thing is to find a buyer that can complete within that time frame. And obviously, if they're feeding that information to the estate agent is going to come looking for his investors that can complete quickly. And that's the way you're going to get access to those deals. But just going back to the very start of what I did say with sort of our own personal experience with estate agents, we've always found that with estate agents, like, I mean, it's a lot of work to cultivate these relationships. And we found in the past that, like, to get truly motivated seller leads, it's best to find them yourself. And basically, with estate agents, there's always going to be a lot of competition. I mean, you know, there's other buyers going to be looking at that property. Obviously, they've their preferred investors, whether or not you're on that list. But I mean, legally, the estate agent does have to try and get the best price for the vendor. Like, obviously, the best price may not, like, if it's the best price in 4 weeks, that's obviously going to be a lower price than the best price in 12 weeks, for example. So
most sellers will understand
that, right?
Yeah, most sellers are going to get that.
Yeah,
you know, they're going to see that, you know, if they want a quick sell, they're going to have to take some kind of hit on the price. You know, most sellers are realistic to that fact. It's just, I mean, there's how much they're willing to accept under the treaty.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's kind of an inverse relationship. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, we keep cutting her off.
We do.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. All good. Okay, so yeah, before I wanted to go into a few of the offline kind of strategies that we're not really doing as much here at Property Solvers, but I know they work. But just a quick one. Another way to find motivated sellers is, you know, pre and post auction. Now, at the moment, it is clearly a buyer's market out there. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to, you know, go through the auction sites and see what properties are on the market, maybe where there's not that many bidders. You can maybe have to see an angle that other potential buyers are not seeing. EIG is a really good website to register to, where you can kind of go on and it's got a list of, well, constant feed of all the auctions that are happening up and down the country. You can filter, you know, the parameters to your specific needs, where you're looking to buy, what type of properties you're looking to buy, whether you're looking for, you know, HMO opportunities or land or whatever it may be, you know, single lets. And you can just kind of see what auction properties are coming up, and then just kind of observe these properties on an ongoing basis. So yeah, anyway, to kind of move on to the kind of offline strategy.
Yeah, just a bit more on auctions, Ruben. Like, I mean, auctions are definitely one of the main ways that most investors find like cheap deals. I mean, I guess, like, you know, yeah. I mean, if you're trying to find motivated sellers, a lot of motivated sellers, like, if they do need to sell fast, their first port of call will be an auction. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people have developed their own strategies to get deals at auction. And that's a whole nother subject in itself. But I mean, we even know from running our own auctions that, like, we're pretty sure that there's people out there who have got software that they're using to just put in below market value offers on every single property that hasn't sold across the EIG platform. The EIG platform, for those who don't know, is basically all the auctions in the UK. And I'm sure that strategy actually works, you know. So, like, we'll have a property, let's say it was 100,000 that hasn't sold at auction, and we'll get like an email.
An automated email.
It looks like an automated email, and it just says, I'll offer you 60 on the property, you know. So they've obviously like, they're just going in way low, and then they're probably like, you know, 1 in 100 like of the offers, like somebody will get back to them and say, you know, okay, listen, the vendor might take 70 or whatever, and they use that as a way to pick up cheap deals by auction. It's pretty clever, really, I think.
Yeah. No, it's definitely ways to do it. I mean, auctions, what we'll do is we'll do a separate podcast on auction buying, auction selling at some stage. There's a lot.
We don't want to give away too many of the trade secrets on that one, Ruben.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so the next one is one of the main offline strategies that, you know, we've done in the past, James, and had some success with it. Leafleting. Now, the last time I did some leafleting was about 10 years ago, and I had a nightmare. It's just logistically, it's just really difficult because there's a couple of ways you can do it. You've got the solus method of leafleting, where you either contact a leaflet distributor to kind of deliver the individual leaflets, but you're going to be paying a lot of money for that, especially these days. And then you've got, I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a shared leaflet delivery, where, you know, your leaflet will be kind of bundled together with a bunch of others, like pizza delivery, double glazing, or whatever. So a bunch of local companies get together and you all just kind of chip in towards delivering those leaflets. Obviously, probably better to go solus because your leaflet is going through the door, arriving at a specific time. So it's going to attract more attention, but then you're paying a bit more money. So when I was doing leafleting, God, it's about 8-9 years ago I did it up in Derbyshire. I just had a nightmare because it was really hard to kind of manage the guys that were doing it. I have a sneaky suspicion they were dumping the leaflets as well. And you just can't control it because it's not one of those things that you can track very well. And you're not going to be, well, I wasn't anyway, going to be kind of following them around. But if you can get the leafleting right, you know, target the right areas, and above all, not just think to yourself, you're going to be targeting one leaflet will get the job done. You really need to be doing, they say you should be doing it around 7 times, like hitting the same property around 7 times in order to really kind of get the level of attention that you need and get the calls coming through. But yeah, it's a tricky one. What are your thoughts on it, James, leafleting?
Yeah, I mean, leafleting is really good if you're local, and you can kind of track it a little bit better. I mean, obviously, the main benefits of leafleting is you can target a specific area in a specific town, like down to the postcode, you know. So if you found, like in your town, that like there's a specific postcode and they tend to be like, they stack really well for buy to let, and you know, you've had historically you've had success in finding motivated sellers there, then leafleting can be really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, like what Ruben said, you need to make sure that the distribution is actually being done properly. And you will have like some people in your town like that will be better. Like obviously you've got the Royal Mail option. So I mean, Royal Mail, when I used to use them, I think they were about like 35 quid per 1,000 leaflets or something like that.
That was quite a while ago though, right, James? That was like 7-8 years ago, right?
Was it 1,000? Was it 1,000 leaflets or 10,000 leaflets? Would have been 1,000.
I think it's 1,000, yeah. And they probably put these up now.
So I used to drop them. Yeah, it was definitely 1,000. I used to drop them in loads of 10,000. Which is the other thing you need to remember with leaflets. Like Ruben said, it's better to drop like small amounts, like batches, hitting one particular postcode or a group of postcodes. So let's say, for example, 10,000 leaflets every 2 weeks to the same postcode. It's about repetition rather than doing like a big, like massive drop of like 250,000 leaflets in one go. You know, tends to work better if you keep hitting the same sort of households and the same postcodes, because obviously they get used to to your leaflet coming in the door. And obviously the other thing about it is what doesn't work for them, like say like in March, for example. In September, maybe it's time that they're looking to sell in September, and they've had your leaflets come through the door for the last 6 months, whatever. So it's certainly about repetition. It's really good for targeting areas. Personally, I think for us, like we were a lot of the time targeting like towns like Derby and Sheffield up north, and living down south, and maybe our control over the distribution wasn't as good as it could have been if you were local. And like a good way, I guess, to make sure that your leaflets are delivered as well is see who in your local area, like what is actually delivering. So what leaflets are you getting through the door? And then you can ring the companies that are dropping those leaflets. But also, like, obviously you can Google leaflet distributors in your town and see which ones get the
reviews,
like the best reviews. But it can be expensive delivering leaflets. I know that the last time that I looked for a very reputable company in Sheffield, they quoted me 110 per thousand on a solus delivery. Obviously, the advantage of the solus delivery, like Ruben said, is if a load of leaflets come through your door, people tend to sweep them up, dump them in the bin. Whereas if it's just one, they'll probably see it. Even if they dump it in the bin, they'll see the message and provided your messaging is clear enough on the leaflet.
Yeah. So another thing that's worthwhile doing is offering referrals as well. So on your leaflet, you could maybe say, £500 or £1,000.
500 quid for
putting me in touch with someone that's looking to sell, And then, even if you don't actually buy the property, you might be able to work with someone like ourselves or another auctioneer or another estate agent to pass on these deals, and sell it and then get a commission.
Yeah.
We're paying 1% as well as a referral fee, well, minimum 1%. So it also, to complement the leafleting, quite a good idea is to get known as the local property buyer, through leafleting, through local community groups, pubs, cafes and all that kind of thing. I know that it's quite easy these days to go and put little posters in charity shop windows. You offer them a little bit of a donation. In other places they, up and down the high street, just kind of get yourself known, like get your photo out there and get recognised as the person that buys properties in the area. It takes a while. It's not going to be immediate, but especially once you start doing a few deals and you get recognised, and then maybe if you're doing a development, you could put some posters out the front of the development and that kind of thing. Watch out for things like bandit boards, which are like kind of where people just put random. You see them occasionally around the place, like people just put posters on railings and stuff like that. It's actually illegal to do that. So I know people were out there doing it before, and there was a bit of a debate on Facebook about the pros and cons of it. But the bottom line is at the moment the council see it, they're going to take it down anyway. So I probably stay away from doing that. Just try and find legitimate ways of getting your face out there, and keeping the cost down to do that. Yeah.
With all these strategies, though, like a key thing that you have to do is you got to measure what your response rates are like, and be realistic going into these. Like, it's not as if, like, if you're going to just drop like 500 leaflets in an area, you're probably not going to get a deal. So you need to go into it with your eyes wide open, understand that like this is a real investment. Like, you'd need to be doing, like, let's say 10,000 leaflets in an area, maybe 8 to 12 times maybe, and you might get a deal, or you might not get a deal. So you have to be realistic going into it about like the risks involved, the amount of work needed, the amount of time and money it's going to cost. But then obviously, let's say it costs you 5,000 to find a deal through leafleting, and that deal makes you 25,000. Like, you're getting 5 to 1 on your investment. So that's why it's very important that you need to you need to test and measure all these different strategies
Sure.
and find out what works best in your area.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
I mean, another.
Yeah.
I mean, another strategy that we used to use, not so common now, was newspapers. You know, I used to get all my deals practically through local newspaper ads, but we started finding that the results on those adverts were getting worse and worse, especially like as more people started advertising online, and like you still see a lot of these adverts in papers like the Metro in London, or like there's always loads of them in the classified in local newspapers still. And if they are in there, they're obviously still working for some people. So obviously that's something that you need to look at. Again, we found that the results on them have been getting worse, but you got to test all these and see which is giving you the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
At a local.
On newspapers, again, it's a similar thing with newspapers. You've got to repeat. You can't expect to even have your newspaper ad up just for a couple of months and expect the inquiries to come through. People need to get familiar with what you do, and it's not going to be like an instant thing. It's definitely going to take a little while. So unless you're lucky, of course, which some people are.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's loads of other things you can do offline, right? Like there's billboards. Like billboards are like great for getting like brand awareness out there, and like if you can sort of blanket market in your local town, and this is something that we'll come on to as well when we speak a bit more about online. Really, what it's about is like using a combination of these strategies to just get your name out there in your local area. And it's something, watch this space, because we're actually going to be doing something with this in Property Solvers. We're actually going to be franchising our business later this year. And one of the things that we want to do is concentrate on bringing all these strategies together in a local area to really sort of dominate the local market. So it's not just about using one of these strategies if possible. You need them all working together. So like they might see your advert on a billboard, like, or at a bus stop, and then a few weeks later, like an ad comes up on their Facebook, the same company, and suddenly it starts filtering into people's minds that you're local. This is what you do. And if they're in a position where they want to sell the property quickly, they're going to think of your business.
On the billboards one, James, pricing is not that bad, especially in the Midlands and the North. It's not as expensive as you think.
It's cheap.
Yeah, it's
cheap. I'll tell you why. It's because a lot of people now, a lot of these offline strategies people aren't doing anymore, because the easy way to market for motivated sellers is just pay-per-click and Facebook advertising, right? Yeah. And like 90% of people looking for motivated sellers, if they're not looking through estate agents, they're doing online advertising, and they're not doing any offline advertising. So we feel like that there's a lot of scope there to go back to doing more offline. And obviously you've got like direct mail as well, which traditionally always worked very well, where you send a letter straight to like properties on the market to a vendor.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to bring up, where I call it mooching. It's a little expression that I've got for it, where you see a property where you see a property that you're interested in, like where I live, up the road, there's this beautiful, it's 2 semi-detached Victorian properties. And since I moved to this area, I've just had my eyes on these properties for ages. So I went to the land registry and, download the land registry, tried to contact the owner. I've ended up speaking to a few neighbours about it. and just trying to figure out who owns this property.
Tell you to stop looking in their window.
Well, it's empty. That's the thing. Like, people have been, obviously, I'm not the only one who's got the same idea. I can imagine, I always see people kind of floating around and just looking at it when they're walking their dogs or whatever. So, I think it's in demand,
I mean, it's a proven strategy, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, in these days, there's tools like Nimbus, Land Insight, where, you can do all of that kind of stuff. You don't really have to do it yourself. Really. They do it all for you. Find the land, and these tools are getting really sophisticated in terms of your ability to kind of see the opportunities and see planning opportunities and if there's permitted development rights and that kind of thing. So they're getting really good, these kind of tools. But you can find out about a lot of properties from the land registry directly, assuming it's all been updated. And then contact the seller directly or the owner directly and just say, look, seeing your property, it's empty. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And see what can be done there. So yeah, plenty of opportunities to do that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. Okay.
Should we talk a little bit about online then? I mean, we've kind of left that.
Yeah. Just one more. I mean, it is kind of online. It's worth checking out sites like Gumtree and other similar kind of sites where you often get landlords and other property sellers who don't want the hassle of kind of going through an estate agent. They've got this property they want to sell, and they're interested in kind of using just finding a private buyer. So it's worth checking out those kind of sites as well. So yeah, online, I guess. The first one we can talk about is Google pay-per-click for finding motivated sellers. I mean, we've done our fair share of that. What are your thoughts on that, James, on Google pay-per-click?
Yeah, I mean, we've spent probably hundreds of thousands on pay-per-click and Facebook advertising. Pay-per-click, it's quite specialized in terms of like being able to like it's really difficult to try and find the right blend and the right adverts, and there's so many sort of moving parts in pay-per-click. It's undoubtedly like an amazing way to get to find motivated sellers, and but the problem is that if you're like, personally, we don't actually manage our pay-per-click campaigns. So we'd hire like a pay-per-click agency. And there's just such a massive difference between like what price per click you could pay with a good agency compared to a bad one. And because Google is always changing things as well, it's even difficult sometimes to know a good one from a bad one, Sometimes it could just be you go through like a long couple of months where, let's say, like there's excess bidding on a particular keyword that you're using. And, with Facebook, we found that like, there's less variables. You can get leads a lot cheaper, but like with pay-per-click, the lead prices can be at a point at times where we've had to stop because it's just been too expensive. I mean, you're talking about like, we've had it at times in the past where it's been up to like £300 a click. Realistically, that's the sort of money that you can waste on pay-per-click. And if you're not on it and you're not supervising it like you can just spank money on pay-per-click. Yeah. And like we know people in the industry that are spending like 15, 20, 30 grand a month on pay-per-click, it's not for the faint-hearted. You need to like know what you're doing, or at least work with somebody who really knows what they're doing. And again, it's all about testing and measuring, so making sure that you're getting those clicks at a price that's affordable, making sure that you're targeting the right keywords, and just keeping an eye on your budgets and making sure that like, you set daily budgets for your spend, that you don't go over, so you can control every day like how much you're spending, and you can control your monthly budgets and stuff like that, but difficult. But yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing with pay-per-click is that people who click on your links are actively searching to sell their property quick. So, whereas Facebook, it's kind of suggestive advertising, and pay-per-click is highly targeted. And it's specifically people looking for your search terms that are going to come and click on your ad, provided competitors aren't clicking on your ads, which also happens in the industry. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a casino,
What do you think,
to be
Rick?
honest. Yeah, it's all we've done it quite a few for quite a few years, and we've used it in to complement our SEO work. But yeah, it is very much a bit of a casino, because you're just kind of bidding against all these other companies. A lot of them are coming into the kind of space without really knowing what they're doing. And sometimes they're willing to just bid up, and they end up just you end up just in this bidding war that's just where the price per click just goes crazy, especially in London and the South.
There's also big bidding, right? So there's a lot of the big guys with massive budgets that will be willing to pay more than you are for some of the top keywords. So yeah, it's a free for all. It's an auction basically on keywords, and you just got to be very strategic in the sort of keywords that you're bidding on, how much you're willing to bid on them, what time of day you feel you can get the best value. There's all these variables that you got to be aware of in order to bring your cost per click down. And then also there's things like the quality score in your ads. Are your ads set up in a way that the messaging is correct for the people looking for your service? All that affects your quality score, and your quality score is a key component to how much you pay per click. So there's so much in it. It's a subject within itself. But yeah.
There's other things you can do to complement, things like retargeting. So, when someone visits your website, for example, you can capitalize on that visit and then effectively retarget them, so kind of do banner ads and things like that. But then a lot of people get annoyed with kind of getting followed around the internet. So, that can affect your quality score. And yeah, there's a lot of variables involved. I think that's the main point. But yeah, as James said, it's very targeted. There are people that are specifically looking to, sell their property or look for a quick cash buyer specifically. Whereas with the other, channels that you're using, that we'll talk about, you're not really targeting people directly, basically. And the same goes with SEO, search engine optimization, which is basically targeting motivated sellers organically. That is very hard work, because you've got to really kind of build up your content, build up your kind of authority online, which takes a long time and a lot of effort. So we've been working on that since pretty much we've started, and we've got some good traction. As a new website or new property buying service, you're gonna need to take quite some years at this stage to kind of get up there, and a lot of hard work. That's similar with Google pay-per-click. SEO is a good way to get targeted, motivated sellers, but very difficult one at the same time. And also, just to mention that there are quite a lot of changes happening on Google at the moment, with things like search generative experience and AI being kind of put into the mix as well. So, the goalposts are always moving with Google. It's worthwhile exploring, but again, go into it with your eyes open. The next one, James, is a couple of marketing strategies, online marketing strategies that are worth exploring. which are not, specifically targeting, but are still good ways to generate motivated seller leads. The first one is Facebook and Instagram. So we've done quite a lot of advertising using these channels. What were your overall kind of thoughts on it, on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is good. I mean, Facebook and pay-per-click are both really good, but they're different. Facebook, you can get a lot cheaper leads. So like I said earlier, I mean, a lot of people, Facebook advertising is more sort of suggestive advertising, right? So it's based on like people's interests, and maybe like a couple of videos that they may have watched or whatever, but they're not directly looking for your services. So it's not as if they're going on to like Facebook and saying like, sell my house or something, So yeah, Facebook is a lot less targeted, but you can generate leads a lot cheaper. And it has become like hugely more competitive in the last few years. And the targeting also used to be better before sort of iOS changes in terms of like tracking people online. Like you used to be able to target people a lot better, but obviously that's all been clamped down on with the iOS changes a few years back with iPhone and stuff like that. But it's still a good way to get motivated seller leads. Your conversion rate is going to be a lot less than it would be for pay-per-click leads. But what you got to look at is what your cost per deal is, because obviously with leads being so much cheaper, it may work out that it's better for you in terms of like your actual conversion to deal rate than pay-per-click. So that's something that you have to look at. But Facebook, again, it's a big subject. I mean, you got to trial a lot of different creatives. You got to run a lot of different ads, split test stuff. Again, we work with an agency for our Facebook ads. So unless you've got real specific knowledge about internet marketing and how to use a Facebook platform to market for motivated sellers, it's probably best to work with somebody who actually knows what they're doing on there, unless you're willing to put in like a lot of time trying to learn how to use these platforms. But for me, it ain't my bag. I get bored looking at this stuff. So
the Facebook platform is really hard to figure out. Actually, sorry to interrupt, James, again. It's quite a hard. When I was looking at it, I remember going through it with the agency guy, and I was even confused with him explaining it to me about 10 times, because you're building out audiences and then you're extracting audiences from one place to another, you're combining audiences, and it's all like a process that, quite a scientific process that they all have. But another problem with Facebook ads is that there's not that many decent Facebook ad managers out there. There's only a handful of them that really know what they're doing. So that's another challenge that we found. And the good ones tend to charge quite a lot of money as well. But if you can get it right, it is a good channel for leads for sure. And one thing, I know you mentioned the conversion rate is a lot different compared to like pay-per-click and SEO. It's with Facebook, I noticed that a lot of the inquiries that we were getting were people that were interested in selling but didn't realize that you were kind of offering below market value prices. They were expected to get a quick sale for the full market value. So you've really got to sift through these inquiries and just kind of speak to people. But then, if you're running an estate agency or you've got an estate agency or an auctioneer partner, you might be able to generate a decent income from these leads.
You mean like us, for example, Ruben?
Yeah, hint.
You were actually paying 1% on referrals.
Yeah, 1 to 1.5% on referrals. So, if you are generating leads and, the sellers aren't particularly motivated, or they're motivated, but not to a degree where there's enough in it for you to, do a deal yourself, feel free to pass it on to us. We'll definitely take a look and let you know whether it's something that's worthwhile, either putting it through our 28-day or our 56-day auction or through our estate agency. Typically at the moment, because it's a buyer's market, the the auction pricing, we're generally looking at about 85% of the market value. And that's the kind of price that maybe even less actually, because that's the kind of price where properties need to be at in order to sell at auction these days. Let's see how things pan out over the year, but I think for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to have to kind of stick by those kind of parameters. So if you are coming across deals that kind of, where the vendor is wanting a quick sale, they're willing to take a little bit of a discount, and they're realistic, then we're happy to have a conversation. We'll pay decent referral fees. So it increases based on the volume of deals that we close from our referral partners.
Yeah, so it's basically payable on the completion price. So we pay sort of starting at 1%. So obviously, if you're sending over a property to our auction, we sell it for 200,000. I mean, you can make $2,000 just for the referral. So that's definitely a good way of earning income from leads that maybe otherwise you might sort of throw away or just discount because they wouldn't accept your offer. Sure. So that's Facebook, Ruben. Obviously, then we've also got YouTube, which kind of goes along with your pay-per-click, right? And it's managed from the same platform. In terms of YouTube ads and stuff like that.
YouTube is an interesting one because it's the second biggest search engine after Google. So there are a lot of people going on there and looking for kind of advice, looking for kind of experts in the area. So it kind of complements what we were talking about earlier about becoming a local property expert in your area. So if you can record some videos about what you do, they don't have to be flashy videos. A lot of people are not impressed by that anyway. You can keep it quite simple. Just talk about your local area, local property market. Okay, you won't be like Mr. Beast. You're not going to get millions of views, but if you can build a local following and build a bit of a channel that's well respected, and there's guys out there like Adam Lawrence and a few of the YouTubers out there. They're just kind of delivering really interesting information out there that is of value to people, and not really going in there with the angle of I want to have deals or I'm trying to find deals. You're just going out there to kind of be an authority in the space. And by virtue of doing that, you tend to attract people coming towards you, to either do business with you. Maybe that will be through joint ventures or, to really kind of get your name out there, really. And people will kind of like you for that. And the opportunities will come on the back of that. I'm sure of it. To kind of conclude, a lot of what we've been talking about is these are all very active strategies. It does require
one last one. One last one, Ruben, before you conclude, that I'll just mention as an honourable mention would be TikTok.
Of course. Yeah.
TikTok is not something that we've actually marketed on ourselves, but it is something that we're closely watching because we've seen that the results on TikTok, the strategy is a little bit similar to Facebook. These are not people looking to sell their property or whatever. But we've seen some interesting results from other property companies using TikTok. And also using it to find motivated sellers at a very low cost per acquisition per lead. So that's something that we are watching closely and probably something that we're going to get involved in sooner rather than later. But just in closing, the last thing.
It's also got a search functionality. It's got a search functionality which the other platforms don't have. As I understand. I've never been myself. I just heard that. But it's definitely one that's super popular, isn't it? TikTok. It's always worth keeping an eye out on these other channels that appear as well that you might be able to tap into. Even LinkedIn, maybe not for finding motivated sellers, but you might be able to find people that are selling deals, property sources. Obviously it's a networking platform, so there's there's going to be opportunities on LinkedIn as well, that you might be able to come across. Join the group that we've got. We've got about well over nearly 71,000, I think, members at the moment. So, join that group, say what you're looking for. There's a bunch of people in there that are looking to, do the same thing as you. Maybe you can build partnerships and that kind of thing as well. So it's a case of just trying as many different angles as possible and seeing what works for you. It's never, there's no one size fits all kind of strategy here to find sellers. I think it's just a case of getting out there. Another thing that I should have mentioned before concluding was networking as well, and that kind of is quite a good one. I know quite a few people find deals through that. Going to networking events. There's a lot more kind of online events happening now. Those are the ones I like because I'm a bit of a recluse. So there's a lot of things like that happening. And really just kind of getting yourself out there, getting yourself known, being a face that's trustworthy, and and obviously showing that you've got the ability to do the deals. But above all, it's worth noting that these are all very active strategies. They all require time, effort, to put into it. So if you're looking for a bit more of a passive way of doing things, feel free to contact myself or James, and we can have a conversation with regards to what we're doing and how we can potentially work together on the deals that we're doing. And also, as James mentioned earlier, the franchising, which is something that we're going to be rolling out this year at some point. So feel free to drop us a line. We can have an informal conversation about what your objectives are, what you're looking to do in property, and we can maybe work together. Was there anything you wanted to add, James?
Thanks. Just the usual, like, subscribe. We're looking to grow the channel. If you've got any ideas for future podcasts, put them in the comments. That's it, really.
Great stuff. All right, James. Well, this has been a long one. It's double the size of our normal podcast, I think. So,
Hopefully there's some good information for people to take from it.
Yeah, brilliant. Good stuff. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate it. And as James says, please like and subscribe. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.